Coming up on the panel, Jayson Tatum, stock way up. Kevin Durant, stock way down. We'll tell you what that means. Seiya Suzuki's had an incredible month for the Cubs as he's burst onto the scene. And a unique item has hit the marketplace, rowing oars from a Harvard-Yale match in the 1850s, and they are pricey. That's next. And welcome to the latest edition of the panel, where we discuss what's hot, what's not, and the latest trends in the memorabilia market space with our panel of experts: David Kohler, the president of SCP Auctions; Jesse Craig, director of business development, PWCC Marketplace; and Nick Sapero, who is Collectables vice president of consignments and acquisitions. I'm Bram Weinstein. We'll start with the NBA playoffs then and now. There's a lot of news in and around the Boston Celtics, heyday of the teams back in the 1960s with Bill Russell, Red Auerbach, and of course, the latest incarnation that just swept the Nets out of the playoffs in the first round. Let's start with the memorabilia side of it, David. A Bill Russell game-worn jersey sells for over $1 million. A Red Auerbach championship ring sells for $129,000. I'm confused by pricing here, but what do you make of the latest things that have hit the marketplace?
I mean, it's fantastic. Obviously, the Celtics have great history, as we know. 17 championships, along with my Lakers, of course. All this memorabilia that comes right from the players brings big bucks. They just had the Russell auction. It's fantastic. I mean, a Russell jersey just sold for $1 million. It's not even photo matched. Obviously, the provenance is there. It's autographed by Bill. It's awesome. I mean, these prices are big prices. We've handled a lot of the Celtics collections in our years. Kuzi, we did. Auerbach family, we actually did. Havlicek, JoJo White, and so on. So we know when you get these collections right from the players, you go to the market and auction it off. There's huge demand. And it's just great to see, again, this game-worn items that are the best of the best, whether it's Russell, if we're talking basketball, Chamberlain, Mike and Michael Jordan, Maravich, Jerry West, all these game-worn jerseys. I think people are realizing that they're relatively cheap based on the scarcity, that there's maybe only 5, 10, 20 known that are actually game-worn. And we're seeing that reflected in the market with these $1 million sales.
All right, Jesse, you can weigh in on some of the memorabilia. I want you to weigh in on the playoffs as well. One, namely Jayson Tatum and the way that he's performed here and kind of the coming out party, where it is starting to look like he is not only a top 5 NBA star, but maybe the best player in the league going right now. So what do you make of the ex-legends that are selling on the marketplace and the current player who is making a name for himself?
Yeah, as far as Tatum goes, obviously he's played unbelievably well. I mean, he's really played well, I would say after the All-Star break, he's been the best player in basketball. As far as the Nets go, they looked terrible. So it's questionable how good the Celtics really look, or if the Nets just look that bad. They've been kind of a mess the entire season with the whole Kyrie situation, getting rid of Harden. I didn't expect a lot of them in the playoffs. And I mean, look, we got it right now. We got the Celtics sweeping them. So it was a abysmal performance from the Nets, made the Celtics look great, but we'll see how they do in the second round. Memorabilia wise, yeah, a lot of these Legends memorabilia pieces are still relatively cheap in comparison to what some of the modern day guys are going for. I mean, being able to scoop up anything from the Celtics run, for less than 6 figures is shocking to me. So I still think there's a ton of room to grow for the memorabilia side of it. And from a Tatum perspective, he could be the best player in basketball.
All right, Nick, I want you to weigh in on Tatum. And since Jesse brought up the Nets, if you think there's any devaluing of Kevin Durant off of what has happened here in this playoff run as well, what do you see?
I mean, with Tatum, I mean, he had a great performance. I mean, he has a great team behind him. So I think people, fall short in giving all the credit to Tatum. I think Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart did a phenomenal job this playoff series. Not to discredit Tatum. I think Tatum's prices have come up significantly, and based off his continued success this playoff run, I think his prices will continue to go up. I think his memorabilia is still drastically underpriced. You could buy probably a photo match rookie jersey for less than $20,000 or about $20,000, and I think that's a reasonable price point for him based off where his cards are. And in terms of the Nets, I mean, it's a tough look. I don't think it really does anything that drastically to KD's value, because I still think that KD's a remarkable player, but I think the Nets definitely need a full revamp.
What do you think, Jesse? Does this do
Yeah,
anything to KD?
I got to comment on that because I think it kills KD's value.
Huh?
I think it proves that KD can't win on his own. The only way he's won is when he went over to Golden State and won with Curry. I mean, he just got swept out of the first round of the playoffs with a team that he basically hand selected. So maybe he's difficult to play with. I mean, his brand isn't that great. He's not a very personable guy. So I think this actually makes him completely irrelevant in the terms of cards. And you've already seen with the season that they've had as the Nets, before they got swept, his cards were going down in value. And this isn't going to help at all.
I would disagree with that, Jesse, just for the sheer fact he's still got time to play. We're looking at it from just a season to season perspective, and I still think he's a contender like moving forward. I just really, I think this season, his values maybe take a little bit of a hit potentially, but I think going forward
they're going to take a hit.
I mean, we've already seen it though. We've already seen it with them dropping, from being a top seed all the way to, Yeah.
The Lakers will gladly trade Westbrook for Durant right now.
Yeah.
Well, we're not doing a New York sports radio show here, David, so it's not happening. All right, let's get into topic number 2. Let's go back to yesteryear. A very odd and unique item is going up for sale. They are the original oars that were used from the original rowing match between Harvard and Yale back in 1852. And who knows what these things are going to end up going for. What I want to ask you all really, and Jesse, I'll start with you, because this is one of the more unique and I guess historic items, considering the competition that has occurred there and the rivalry between the two Ivy League schools. What are some of the most unique items you've come across?
I mean, I don't have a lot of unique memorabilia things. That's probably a better question for David. But this is a extremely unique item, and the value that they're giving it is roughly $3 to $5 million. I feel like this is just a wallet measuring contest that's going to come between a Yale grad and a Harvard grad battling it out. And that's the only reason that this thing is going to go for a significant amount of money, because it's so unique and so rare and strange. But it's literally going to be, oh yeah, I outbid any Yale grad. I'm from Harvard. I'm a Harvard grad, and I got the oars, and I can hang up these massive things in my office or something. I don't know how you display them. It's a very weird piece to me. And it's just going to be two guys they're grads from each respective school, likely battling it out to have the bragging rights to own these pieces.
You guys also talk often about great backstories. These were handled by a former president at one point as well. So it's a very unique item. All right, David, what do you got? What comes to mind with unique items that you've had in the past?
Yeah, I mean, these pieces here, they're interesting. Definitely the genesis of collegiate sports, Harvard, Yale, the big Ivy League schools. 3 to 5 million seems like a lot, but this market, as we've seen, Sotheby's is, doing the auction. These could bring some big bucks. We've handled some crazy stuff. The first thing I thought of actually was we had the laws of baseball, we called it, and it was about 18 pages. The beginning, the genesis of the game of baseball. We had that, and we thought it was going to bring $1 million or more. I think this sold about maybe 6-7 years ago, and that brought $3.63 million. And it was the most expensive sports document at the time sold, other than the rules of basketball from James Naismith. So you never know with some of these things. We've had some other unique things that aren't as valuable. Steph Curry's mouth guard that he threw in the stands. I think we had that one time that brought $15,000, and Kobe's cast that he broke when he was his wrist when he broke it when he was a rookie. So we've had some interesting things that certainly people love that they talk about. I remember one time I think Sotheby's sold Ty Cobb's dentures that made the press. So some great stories.
All right, Nick, what do you got on the oars from Harvard and Yale?
I think marketing is everything. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with this price tag, but I think Jesse's spot on in pretty much noting that this may be a pissing contest between Harvard and Yale. So I wouldn't expect the price tag to be something very outlandish, but it's not something I'd want on my wall.
Okay. All right, let's get back current here. Major League Baseball season has started. One of the breakout stars this year is the new Cub, Seiya Suzuki. He's had a torrid start here. It is just a start to for the season for him. Still, it's been memorable. He does not have a relation to Ichiro Suzuki, if you were wondering. All right, so on the marketplace, Nick, let's start with you. Seiya Suzuki, what are you seeing here?
Not much, because he doesn't have any cards, really, any mass appeal cards. He's got some Japanese issued cards, so there's not much going on that front. I think once there is cards, he needs to have the continued success. So once he does get cards, let's just say in 3 months or so, or even less, a less period of time, he has to just keep up, and he has to keep hitting home runs and keep his batting average up for him to really be investable. At the end of the day, he's a 27-year-old, he's a 27-year-old position player, so he could, fall off the face of the earth, with any given series. So, I just feel like investing in someone that in that age is just very risky. Even though he is a foreign player, I think that's really where the allure comes from. But his age is a detractor.
Nick is the only person I've ever met that ages people at 27 so fast. All right, David, Seiya Suzuki, what do you think here?
I mean, I agree with Nick. I mean, we tend to get ahead of ourselves on this when these players come up. Obviously, he's a great player. He's international interest. He's on the Chicago Cubs, so there's going to even be more interest, right, in a big city with long tradition in the game of baseball. I hope he does great, but it's all about long-term, getting hits, home runs, winning games, getting your teams to the playoffs, all the things we've said before, because we don't want to go back. We've been through this with, again, I go way back, Joe Charbonneau, Bob Horner, that have been these, great players for a season or two, and then they're gone. So hopefully that's not the case with Suzuki, but it remains to be seen. And hopefully that, we need some of his cards out there, some memorabilia out there that people can collect, have interest in. Hopefully, 3 years from now, we're talking about him, how great he is for the game of baseball.
Yeah, it's not even a season or two. It's just a month at this point. What do you think, Jesse? Where are you on Seiya Suzuki?
Well, you just nailed it. It's been a month. I mean, what are we really talking about here? It's a cool story. He's with a great franchise with the Cubs, but a sample size of less than 20 games in a 162 game season is just a blip on the radar. And this guy's got so much more baseball to play. So if we're talking, end of the season, that's a different story. But yeah, guys can have great years, then they can have terrible years. So longevity and consistency is everything. And that's what we're talking about with Ohtani as well. Ohtani's an older guy, just won MVP, but can he do it again this year? He started off the year terribly. So he might not be able to back up an MVP season with a fantastic year. But then again, we're talking about less than 20 games. So there's still a lot of baseball left to be played. And, the fact that we're even really talking about this now, it feels like we're grasping at straws a bit to find someone young and noteworthy.
Last year, Kyle Schwarber had the best slugging percentage month of anyone, including Babe Ruth in Major League Baseball history. And he was traded. And I don't know that he's going to end up being in the Hall of Fame. So to your point, a month is a month in Major League Baseball. All right. Final word time. David, what do you got this week?
I was thinking about a couple sales this week. Again, we talked about these huge sales going on. One is a trimmed, altered Honus Wagner card just brought $1.5 million, which is amazing, with no borders. Last show, we talked about the vintage cards, collecting those with autographs and how rare they are of the big names. And last night, a 1912 T202 triple folder tobacco card signed by Ty Cobb brought $300,000 that was autographed from, again, over 100 years ago. So it's showing the market is appreciating these things. I'm also very interested to see in the days to come, the Jackie Robinson jersey, I think from 1951 is up for auction. And we're going to see, is that going to bring 4 million, 6 million, 8 million? I have no idea, but it's going to be interesting to see. These numbers are getting bigger and bigger. People are appreciating the rarest of the rare in the sports memorabilia world.
Including oars. We found that out today. All right, Jesse, final word. What do you got?
Talk NBA playoffs. I mean, it's what's hot right now. What I really like about this playoffs is we don't know who's going to win. There's not a clear-cut favorite. Some teams are playing really well. Some teams we expected to play well are actually tied up in their series. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out the champion. And from a card perspective and memorabilia perspective, a lot of the time going into the playoffs, there's a team that really stands out as the favorite, and pricing is somewhat baked into those players already, but we don't really have that this year. So I believe that whoever ends up winning the finals, as long as there is a noteworthy player on their team, we will see a drastic increase in pricing with their memorabilia and cards.
All right, final word for you, Nick. What do you got this week?
No, I'll stay on Jesse's point. Don't get caught up in the playoff hype. I think there's players that are very enticing right now, like Jalen Brunson and Jordan Poole, but are their performances sustainable? And the answer is probably no. I mean, Brunson is doing a lot for his value. He's going to get potentially a big payday at the end of this year, which is great for him. I don't know if it's necessarily great for his cards.
Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah. We've had a couple of those today.
Yeah, a couple of those today. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the panel. For our expert David Kohler, Jesse Craig, Nick Sapero, I'm Bram Weinstein. We'll see you next time.